2022 was also the year, of course, where the Queen died, and where I suppose we were confronted with what that means, and more personally, what she means, or indeed meant to us. And that's perhaps something that I personally hadn't considered until I was reporting on the death of Her Majesty the Queen, and particularly with a focus on the Scotland element to all of this. She, of course, died at Balmoral Castle, and her dying in Scotland then led to a whole series of process and protocol that otherwise we wouldn't have seen. And so I think my reflections really are based on the days that I spent in Balmoral, then in Edinburgh, as that process and protocol was realised. And I'm going to actually borrow my reflections from some of those that I met, because those are the people that have stayed with me when I consider the impact of the life of the Queen. And particularly two people that I met outside Balmoral Castle, traditional Scottish musicians, pipers, singers, fiddle players, you name it. There was two of them that I spoke to. And these two lived in the area in Aberdeenshire around Balmoral, and on more than one occasion had played live music, sung songs for the Queen in private audiences at Balmoral and indeed elsewhere. And this is perhaps the bit that I think is more interesting, that they encountered her out and about at village halls and at community halls when there were ceilidh dances on, just of a weekend. That's what happens in the Highlands. There'll be a dance on, everybody round about will come along and have a whale of a time, frankly, eat, drink and be merry, all of that. And Her Majesty the Queen would show up at these things as an attendee. She was off duty, as it were, in as much as the Queen can ever be off duty. But she would show up and she would seamlessly become part of the community. And I think that that is a real testament to actually how she lived her life for decades before, that perhaps something that we often spoke about or read about, but you didn't really connect with until you hear the stories of, quote, Her Majesty was the first on the dance floor. She would then walk around the room encouraging everybody to get up and dance. And what are you supposed to do when Her Majesty the Queen is the one that's asking you to dance? It becomes a little bit more difficult to refuse. And so I think that really shone a new light, actually, on Queen Elizabeth II, as far as I was concerned, in that these people in that community round Balmoral felt that she was one of their own, that she belonged there, that she was part of that community. And while I think that actually that could probably be applied to lots of people across the country, that was the first time I'd really connected with her and connected with her legacy on that sort of level. I imagine that's repeated for people who have met her, families of those who have been at ceremonies in which she has been a part or played a part. But actually in that local area where she spent so much time, Balmoral was her favourite place to be. She spent so much time there. I think that that is the thing that will resonate through the decades, actually, following the death of Queen Elizabeth II, that she was part of the community and that people felt like she was one of theirs.